הזה עובר לנו עדיין, אוחזים ידיים כל יום.
Honored guests, thank you for joining us from around the world for what will surely be a memorable evening. Please take your seats and get ready for the 21st Annual Stand With Us Festival of Lights. And now, please welcome our host for the evening, author, producer, actress, and Israel's special envoy for combating anti-Semitism, Noah Tishby.
Hi. Hello, everybody. It was very dark of me walking in here. Hi, everybody. Hello. Thank you. Yes, please. Felt as I was walking in the dark. Thank you so much and welcome to the 2022 Stand With Us Festival of Lights. Let's give a round of applause. On behalf of Stand With Us, I would like to thank our incredible hosts, the two couples that always make this inspiring and important of an evening possible, Ellie and Bruce Liederman and Debbie and Nati Seidoff, please. Thank you. So we have a room filled with people of all ages, all faiths, and all political persuasions. We have dozens of rabbis in the room from all denominations. We have our Christian friends and elected officials, including LA City Controller Ron Galperin. Hi, where is he? Welcome. There you go. Hello. Welcome. We have heads of dozens of organizations with us, and we want to welcome all of you. Thank you so much for being with us. And to those of you who are watching us online, hello, hi, welcome to you as well. Let's give them a round of applause for online. We've got a lot of people watching online. This year, Stand With Us is 21 years old. Yes, exactly. 21 years old. Special thanks to Esther Renzer and to the Stand With Us Board of Directors, yes, our executives, Jerry and Roz Rothstein. Esther, Jerry, and Roz, thank you so much. And the incredible international Stand With Us staff for another year of tremendous work, growth, and effective results, which we will celebrate and showcase this evening. Tonight, the Hatikva will be performed by Alon Miller. He's an amazing pillar of our community. Now, Alon has gone through a tough recovery this year. And while he can't be with us in person, he and his wonderful wife, Rosanna, are watching us online. So hello to you guys as well. Hi. Yes. Now, in your honor, we're going to play a video of Alon singing the Hatikva from a previous Stand With Us gala. And next year, Alon, you'll be well enough to join us here in person to sing again, okay? Yes. But first, the American National Anthem will be performed by one of the founders of the Festival of Lights, Rabbi Cantor Allison Wissett. And now, please rise for the national anthems.
Oh, say, can you sing by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled
And now, a man we all know and love. He's performed at the Festival of Lights for so many years, and you may also recognize him from this season of Curb Your Enthusiasm on HBO. Please give it up for the self-titled Jewish Jerry Seinfeld, Elon Gold.
I can't hear you guys. Come on. Yeah, let's do this right. I am so happy to be back. Yeah, you guys saw Noah Tishby and you were like, wow, Elon got so much better looking. But it's me. I'm here again, and I'm honored to be here. And let me tell you something. You know, of all the comedians they could have asked to be here tonight, and I heard it was down to me and Dave Chappelle. It's crazy out there, am I right, people? Yeah, it's getting crazy. Oh my God, even Mel Gibson right now is going, hey, you thought I was bad. And for me especially, do you know how tough it is for me right now to be a Jew and an Elon? I feel like everybody hates me, you know what I mean? I go on Twitter, I'm like, what did I do, you know? Yeah, they're explaining it. That's Elon Musk. Yeah, no. Elon Gold. Yeah, no. Yeah, he owns SpaceX. I just bought some GasX. It's a different Elon. He's Elon Musk. I'm Elon Musk. Do corporate gigs to pay mortgage because these fundraisers don't really pay that well because it's a mitzvah. You know how it is. Anyway, I'm here for the mitzvah, people. Okay? Yeah. It is crazy, though. It's been like, you know, all this rhetoric that's going on out there. Unbelievable. The Jews run Hollywood. Come on. The Jews ran Hollywood. Don't you think I would have hosted the Oscars by now and not the Chabad telethon? Wouldn't I be headlining the Hollywood Bowl tonight for 7,000 people instead of a little theater just west of Crenshaw, which, by the way, we used to be at the Beverly Hilton. What were they like? You know, Beverly Hills just got way too dangerous. How about Crenshaw? Let's go there for... It's crazy out there. They really believe all this Narishkeit, this nonsense. We control this, we control that. It's crazy, right? These people have never met Jews, okay? They have never met Jews. Because if they have, they would see we can't agree on anything. They've never been to a shul board meeting, okay? I would love to sit them down right there and just be watching it like, oh my God, they can't even control how long the rabbi speaks. They can't agree on whether to have a hot or cold kiddush. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. Control this. We could barely control our bowels. Some of you know what I'm talking about. It's true. It's true. We don't run the banks. We're running into a bank to look for a bathroom. You know what I mean? Excuse me, is there a men's room here? It's an emergency. We know what Moses meant by let my people go. We know. Yeah, thank you. We're either on the run or have the runs. That's what we are. It's gotten bad out there. I open my show nowadays with good evening, ladies and anti-Semites. It's crazy. I'm glad you're laughing because this is no joke, people. It is no joke. It's reached new lows, you know, new lows. We've all heard the Jews control the media, Jews control this garbage nonsense. We've heard that. But now, do you hear the latest? You know, the Jews are not even Jews. Okay, then why do you hate us? Go hate the real Jews and leave us the hell alone, would you? Oh my God. We're not Jews? Who are the Jews then? Oh, the black Hebrew Israelites are the Jews now. Look how quiet it gets in here. It's like, is he really going there? I guess he doesn't enjoy living. They're the real Jews. Black. You know what I would love to say to them? Hey, if you have gastrointestinal problems, Crohn's disease, a receding hairline, are you with me on this? If you have IBS, you got to deal with BDS, then you know what? You're not a real Jew. If you don't have any of those things. I'll tell you where I was recently. I was in Israel 2 weeks ago. Yes, performing. I did the Jerusalem Theater, 1,000 people, sold out, not important. But I love being in Israel. The only thing I don't like about being in Israel is that I don't speak Hebrew, because I only went to yeshiva for 12 years. My parents lost a small fortune. They could have moved out of the Bronx years before they did, only to have their dumb son walking around Israel going, Ech omrim, late checkout. Low noon. Shnei. Shtayim, Shetei. Two. I want to be at 2. The flight's at night. Yeah, I got to. Same with my kids. They don't speak Hebrew. I send them to a school here in LA called Maimonides, or as I like to call it, My Money Dies. Because they don't teach them Hebrew over there. It's a great school. I'm not knocking the school. I'm just saying teach them Hebrew. No, they're too busy teaching them what you're not allowed to do. Don't do this, don't do that. My kids and me, we don't know the Hebrew words for wool or linen, but we know you're not allowed to mix them. That we know. I have spent so much on Maimonides, and me and my kids were walking around Israel with that same stupid one-word answer to Ata medaber ivrit, Katzat. That's $900,000? Come on, give me a break. And I was there a couple of weeks ago. I missed the election by 1 week, but I'm going again next month, so I'm sure there'll be another one. Wow. They've got some issues over there. But you have to understand, Israel is almost 75 years old. At 75, you're going to start to have some problems with your elections. Yeah, sometimes it's not so easy to get a rise in the polls. But anyway, we should send them the blue pill, but make it blue and white and just with a little instructions. If your election lasts more than 4 months, you may want to consult your doctor. Roz hates me for that one. Roz is like, it was a little too close. That was a little too close. But Bibi's back. Yes, I like Bibi. Some people don't like Bibi. Some people are excited about. I'm excited. I think he's great. You know who's so excited? No one is more thrilled to have Bibi back than Donald Trump. Right? Donald Trump announced that he was running right after Bibi won. They were like, if he could win again, I could win again, right? And we're going to win bigly, by the way. We're going to win very bigly. We're going to do fantastic. It's going to be terrific. It's going to be better than ever. Nobody wins more bigly than I do. Nobody wins more bigly. It's going to be the bigliest of all the biglies. That's right. We're going to do terrific. And I have a lot of people that are on my side. I've got Kanye and... And by the way, Kanye, not a big fan of the Jews, and that's a problem for me because I got a Jew daughter and I have Jewy grandchildren, and I got to make a choice between Kanye and Ivanka, and I'm not sure. I could do this all night, by the way. I could just stand up here and do this all night. And by the way, nobody did better for Israel than I did. Nobody. That's right. You know, we got the Golan back. We got the Golan. The Golan Heights, or as I like to call it, the Golan Trump Heights. That's right. And we moved the embassy, and they all said it's going to cause a war. It didn't cause a war. And then I left office, and there was a war. It was terrible. There was a war in Ukraine. And the Russians, they're doing some terrific things and also some very bad things. He always contradicts what he just said 3 seconds before, right? He's always like, Putin, he's a nasty guy. He's a horrible guy, and we get along so well. He's probably one of the worst guys I've ever met, and we're very close. And Putin was very quiet. By the way, he was very quiet under my watch, and now he's making a lot of noise. Noisy Putin, I like to call him. And he's trying to wake up Sleepy Joe. By the way, Joe Biden, another useless. Is it me? Joe Biden is like the substitute teacher of presidents. Right? You remember when you had a substitute teacher and you were like, we don't have to listen to you. You're not going to be here tomorrow. And the only reason you are here is because our last teacher was a bit mashugada and he almost burnt down the school. Biden is the substitute president. The whole administration is nervous about him, right? Like, you think he's going to be able to finish out the semester? I don't know. The guy couldn't finish a bicycle ride. I'm not sure. And you could see Biden is at that breaking point. He's at that breaking point that every substitute teacher hits, where he's just like, look, I don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. How about I just hit the lights and we put on a video, okay? Can we do that? Can we? It's unbelievable. Biden is like, well, everything is bad. Like, inflation is up, right? Gas prices are still high. Gas prices are so high, even Reform Jews are walking a shul. Yes. And we still have this terrible war in the Ukraine. And like, you know, and the Russians, by the way, don't hate the Russian people. You know, it's Putin. It's not the people. You gotta love the people. This is the problem with Israel, right? Anytime anyone has an issue with the government, they suddenly hate the people of Israel. That is a ridiculous way to think. So don't hate the Russian people. It's the leadership. It's Putin. I married a Russian woman, Jewish, by the way. And when I say Russian, she's like third generation American, you know. She's not like, hello, you know, it's not one of those, how are you? I come to this country to marry American funny man. It's not like that. Her name is Sasha, but you couldn't tell she was Russian. Like, she doesn't still have the chest hair. She doesn't speak Russian either, thank God. Russian is like the most, it's not a romantic language, right? It's not a sexy, like, you hear a woman speak French, that's like a bit of a turn, all right? It's like a bouger le pipi. That's like, ooh. Russian sounds like the noise you hear when you're trying to swat a fly, right? It's like, thank you, people. Yes, we're having fun. We're having a good time. It's going to get serious in a minute, but for now, we're having a good time. And I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. It's been tough for all of us. The pandemic was tough, right? Pandemic was crazy, wasn't it? Especially for us, right? The whole don't touch your face thing, that's all we do. We're always like, hey, I don't. I guarantee you that most of us got this by reacting to the news of someone else having it, right? Like, you have it? Oh, great. Now I have it. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. In the height of COVID, the height of the pandemic, my son gets a cold. It was just a cold. He kept testing negative, but it was like for a week. This is a true story. And we were like, oh, let's let him, you know, go see the doctor, right? It's been a week. He's testing negative, but this cold is not going away. Height of COVID. So I call, by the way, I love how people are looking at I'm right here. You could watch me on Netflix later. I'm right here. They're like, ooh, this is good. Some of you are on your phones. It's, so height of COVID. So I call the pediatrician, right? True story. And I'm like, hi, I'd like to make an appointment for my son to see the doctor. And I hear, is your child sick? And I'm like, is this a doctor's office? That is the craziest question I've ever heard, right? I'd be like calling a hotel and going, hi, I'd like to book a room for tonight. Are you sleeping over? Yeah, isn't that your business model, sleepovers? I mean, I was like, yeah, he's just as a cold. We just want to bring him in. She goes, oh, yeah, so we're only doing well visits right now. The doctor's only seeing well patients. And I'm like, well patients? The doctor is only seeing well patients? I could see well patients. And I'm an idiot, okay? In fact, I could do any job you don't have to do. I could be a well mechanic. How's your car running? Perfectly. Great, bring it in, I'll have a look. Yeah. I'm a well mechanic. The doctor was only seeing well patients. I'm sorry, are therapists only seeing the mentally well? Hi, does she have an opening this afternoon? I woke up so happy. Yeah, like ecstatic. Yeah, like I've been thinking about extending my life. I gotta come in. I gotta come in. Could you imagine calling a restaurant and being like, hi, I'd like to make a reservation for 4 people at 8 p.m. Is your party starving? I mean, we're not famished, but by 8 we'll have a hankering. Ooh, yeah, so the chef's only feeding full people right now. We're only seating our full patrons. Hi, I'd like to join the gym. How fat are you? What? One more, because that's how angry I am at this. One more. Forest Hill Cemetery. Hi, my grandfather. Oh boy, is he dead? Yeah, is that a problem? Yeah, so we're only burying the alive right now. You mind if I ask what was the cause of death? Yeah, his doctor was only seeing well patients. Thank you, people. Thank you so much for having me. It's always amazing. I love Stand With Us. I love the work they do. This is an organization I've been a part of. I'm a part of the family for the last 15 years. It's time to get serious now. I come out here just to crack some jokes, make everybody happy, but it has been an insane time. It's a terrible time, and there is no better place that's fighting the good fight of anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism. It's all the same, and it's all rearing its ugly head too much. No better place than Stand With Us. So give yourselves a round of applause for coming out and supporting this incredible organization. Stand With Us has grown like a phoenix. In only 21 years, they're now working on 6 continents. This is amazing. Stand With Us has become a household name around the world for anyone interested in inspiring love and support for Israel, and for anyone who wants to fight against anti-Semitism. So, let's learn a little about the wonderful, incredible organization we're all here to celebrate and support. Take a look.
You feel the connection deeply. The pride and the people inspire you. You yearn for peace and hope that your children and your grandchildren will love and support Israel. You want to inspire them to care as you do, to protect Israel and the Jewish people's future. Do you take for granted that they will know what you know and feel what you feel? Do they know how far we have come, where we've been, where we are going? Will they be inspired and rise to the task? Will they stand tall for Israel? With the rise in anti-Semitism, will they understand never again? Our students in high schools and college campuses are being bullied for their support for Israel.
We support the Antifa! Israel is a terrorist state!
And often singled out for being Jewish. They attack our children and our community. Your children, your community. With anti-Semitism on the rise, every day requires courage and strength.
You have blood on your hands! Not welcome on our campus!
They are told that they don't belong.
Get off our campus now! I've been this campus for 10 years! Get the off our campus now!
That their voices don't matter. That our history, our nation, our people don't matter.
Zionism must be destroyed. It must be gotten rid of. Every aspect of it.
You want to stand tall, to make a difference, to fight back against this hate, to show our collective pride to the world, and ensure that our children and our neighbors will know how to stand strong, and show a legacy of pride, strength, and peoplehood. That is what Stand With Us does. That is who Stand With Us is. We represent you when you can't be there, with offices on 6 continents. We represent you in high schools, where we reach over 100,000 students each year with the beauty of Israel and foster the next generation of Zionist leaders. We are your voice on campus, training students how to lead and reach over 150,000 of their peers each year in the face of intolerance and bigotry. We represent you when we reach 100 million people on Facebook during peak weeks. We educate for the future by sponsoring speaker tours and holding conferences around the world, training leaders and lifting communities. We are your hotline when anti-Semitism rises and civil rights are trampled on, with over 250 attorneys standing by for students, faculty, and community members. We represent your legacy when we partner with over 700 different organizations around the world and share our precious resources with groups who care as you do about Israel. We are working in your name when we use innovative teaching methods to inspire middle schoolers with the wonder of Israel. We represent you when it's time to push back against anti-Semitism, when it is time to stand up for Israel, when it is time to teach, to inspire, to show our collective pride for Israel. And we have only just begun. Help us reach more of the world. Help us empower more of our children, your children, to be courageous, to be confident, to fight smart, to win, and to always, always stand tall. Am Yisrael Chai.
Yeah, Stand With Us is working so hard for all of us. So for all of you watching online, while you're enjoying the show, please consider making a charitable contribution by clicking on the donate button or go to standwithus.com/donate. And for those of you here in person, you're going to have an opportunity to support the organization soon. And after the show, there are going to be beautiful dessert outside, so please don't leave before you do that. Tonight, when you walked from the delicious dinner towards the theater to join us for the program for just a few minutes, you had the opportunity to see what it feels like to be a Jewish student on campus here. Campuses these days, this is what it looks like. You had the opportunity just for a moment to feel what your children and what your grandchildren, when they walk on so many campuses in this country. It's extremely stressful and it's isolating. And I can tell you that we're not being alarmists, okay? The footage that you saw outside and the hatred is actual. That is real footage that our students have sent us from the past few years and the past year alone. And you just had a taste of it. Now, weren't you glad when this was over, right? You just walked through that hate-filled corridor and you reached, that light at the end of the tunnel, that light that Jewish groups like Stand With Us provide for students on campus, that warm, that safe feeling that you get when you know that you're supported and when you find your network and the people who understand how you feel and what you're going through. And this is what Stand With Us does. This is what they do. We are the light at the end of the tunnel for so many students and community members across the world, and we have, thankfully, grown quickly because of the partnership with you. So thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for you guys. Thank you. Now, I recently experienced all of this kind of a stress and hate firsthand. I had the opportunity to visit students at UC Berkeley. What? No big deal. I want to share my experience with you for just a moment so you can get a tiny taste of what this feels like. Ladies and gentlemen, please watch the video for a few minutes, my pleasant visit at UC Berkeley. Okay, so a few weeks ago, the article came out that talked about 9 student groups banning Zionists from participating in Berkeley campus, from speaking to their students. The administration said it's not a big deal, and it's not discriminatory. We, of course, understand that Zionism is integral to Jewish identity and it's an ethnic discrimination. So I'm here on Berkeley campus to have a conversation and see, are Zionists excluded from Berkeley, or can we just hang out and talk to each other? See what happens. Hi. Good, how are you? I'm Noah. What's your name?
Baha.
It's a great name. Where's it from?
I'm from Jerusalem.
You're from Jerusalem. That's awesome. I'm from Tel Aviv. Are you Palestinian?
Yes, I'm
That's awesome.
Palestinian.
What do you think of this statement?
I don't think anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
Okay.
But when I see Zionism,
Yep.
I see anti-Palestinian.
I love that you said it, because Zionism actually is not anti-Palestinian. When Israel was created, it was basically decolonized from Great Britain. So there was the beginning. They kind of like said, yeah, the Balfour Declaration. No, that's history. I'm sorry. I know it's
You
not.
should be sorry.
Why should I be sorry?
Because being a Zionist is inherently anti-Palestinian.
Did
When I
you-
hear Zionist, I think racist.
I'm not anti-Semitic, but I am anti-Zionist.
So how do you
100%,
differentiate
me too.
between? Would you like to have a conversation?
Viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina!
I would love to talk to you. Would you like to have a conversation about this?
Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina!
Do you believe that the Jews have a right for self-determination as a state, in a state?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. So
Every
you
person-
do believe that Israel has the right to exist?
Of course.
Great, then you are a Zionist. Welcome. Sorry. Don't be angry. It's true.
You're gonna stand here and be pro-Israeli
Can we talk
with that
again
with
about
that blood
who
on your
controls
hands.
Gaza?
With that blood on your.
I have
with
blood
that,
on my hands.
Yeah, you
I have
do.
blood on my hands.
Yeah, you do. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Thing I've ever heard come out of your mouth. I thought you were educated. You are the dumbest motherfucker I've ever seen in my entire life.
Luckily, I'm not afraid of you. Here's the question, though. What do we do? And they just like don't want to listen at all. There's no conversation. There's this. I feel super welcome here, by the way, at Berkeley. That was nearly 4 hours of harassment, attacks, yelling. I didn't want to have security when I went there, and I was kind of forced to take one. And I got to tell you, I was very glad that I had one, because it gotten really extreme. Now, here's the thing: I'm an adult. I'm a confident adult. I was a soldier in the Israeli military. I can hold my own, and yet the hostility was unbearable. I was harassed on campus for simply thinking differently than this current anti-Israel mainstream that is the only thing that is accepted on, campuses in liberal places. Now just imagine how our kids feel every single day. Now I want you to take a look on the screens now to see two examples of our amazing student leaders whom we're honoring tonight. Each of them stood up to this kind of pressure and hate on their campuses. Let's take a look.
About a month ago, I heard of a new club at my school. It was called Juice for Jews. The Jewish students bought challah and grape juice and created posters. I was so excited to attend the first meeting, and I told my parents it was the first time since kindergarten that I felt represented as well. The next day, at the beginning of the club meeting, the principal came in and told the students that the term Jew can be offensive and have negative association. My heart sunk. We were being shamed of our identity. When I expressed my feelings to the faculty, they offered me to lead a town hall. I'm not an expert on anti-Semitism, but I know what it feels like to be the target of it. I already had the incident with my peers telling me Israel is murdering children and is not entitled to their land. I did not feel comfortable being the one to educate my peers, so I called Stand With Us.
No one expected her to be shut down so badly from the school she'd called home for 9 years. It's for incidences like this that we created Israel Inc.
I've been continuously surprised by the little to no mention of the Holocaust. How can I be at a school for 9 years with no mention of the Jewish genocide of World War II?
In a recent study, 75% of the youngest group surveyed said they were barely connected to Israel, barely connected to their Jewish identity. Eleanor was not in that 75%. She was engaged, she was strong, and she was proud.
I'm proud to say that my school is now planning on adding the Holocaust education back into the middle school because of my advocacy.
Unfortunately, the incident that happened at Eleanor's school isn't unique. What makes it unique is that Eleanor was there and she was willing to stand up and fight it. Our goal is to find and create more Eleanors.
Stand With Us has enabled me to advocate with strength, knowing I have an organization supporting and encouraging me. I know this is just the start of my journey to combat anti-Semitism and support Israel. I'm looking forward to continuing my work with Stand With Us in high school and beyond.
Mazal Tov, Eleanor.
Thank you so much.
Mazel Tov, Eleanor. Everyone should know that she is the youngest person to ever receive the Stand With Us Star of David Award.
Yay.
Thank you.
We are so proud of her and her poise, and we just know you are going to have an incredible future for Israel and the Jewish people. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to invite up your mom for literally 1 minute. This is a proud mommy because she told me something during dinner. She told me something that I thought you might want to hear.
It is because of Stand With Us that my daughter had the confidence above just who she is, but that she knew she had the tools given to her through the leadership of this organization. I'm grateful that they have just begun to help her on this journey of advocacy against anti-Semitism, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, you can exit now. Technical flaws, what can you do? We're friends, right? This is mishpacha. So now we're going to hear about a girl, a young woman, who actually grew up in Stand With Us. She went through the high school programs, both high school programs, and now she is in UCLA as an Emerson Fellow. Let's see the story of Gabby.
I went to a private Jewish high school, and the last thing I ever expected to experience was anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. My sophomore year of high school, I was in my English class, and one of my friends was talking to me about Israel and said, Israel doesn't belong to the Jewish people and Israel shouldn't exist. The thing that troubled me the most was that I didn't know how to defend myself. That's when I decided to join Stand With Us' Teen Leadership Council because I wanted to further my education about Israel. I realized that I do want to stand up and fight for the Jewish people, and the best way to do that is through learning more about Israel and how I can stand up for the Jewish people.
That's why we're here. Stand With Us High School is educating these student leaders to know what to do in the face of anti-Semitism. We're teaching them to know how to respond and how to educate their friends about this hatred and how we can all combat it together. With over 200 students in our leadership training programs, we're able to reach hundreds of thousands of students each year with our educational materials.
What I believe is most unique about what we offer to students through Stand With Us is the wealth of resources they have at their fingertips. From the Center for Combating Anti-Semitism to the Side-Off Legal Department to the Holocaust Education Center, Stand With Us has the capability to support students who are facing any type of challenge on campus. And Gabby took advantage of every opportunity, from the Teen Leadership Council to the Kenneth Leventhal High School internship to the Emerson Fellowship, and now through community activism.
When I first entered UCLA, I expected and anticipated to encounter misinformation, But what I wasn't prepared for was the acceptance and persistence of anti-Semitism on my campus. When Gaza began firing rockets at Israel, I posted a graphic onto my social media about what was happening, and right away dozens of UCLA students direct messaged me and said, Israel doesn't exist. How can you post such a thing? Israel is maliciously killing people. Instead of becoming frustrated and angry, which is probably something I would have done prior to the internship, I took a step back and I used the method that I learned. After a nice, respectful dialogue with my peers, they thanked me, deleted their posts, and then asked me more questions about Israel. I decided to apply to be an Emerson Fellow because I wanted the training and the proper support from Stand With Us in order to fight and stand up for my Jewish peers. In my high school, I felt alone and I didn't think that other people were experiencing anti-Semitism, but I vividly remember my first day at the conference, all of the interns went into a room. They asked us, if you've ever experienced anti-Semitism, please raise your hand. And I thought I would be the only one raising my hand, but when I looked across the room, every single student was raising their hand. And I think it's at that moment that I realized we weren't all just there to further our education about Israel, but we really joined the internship because we've all personally experienced an incident that made us want to stand up and fight for the Jewish people. Sometimes I'm afraid to walk onto my own campus, but the fact that I have Stand With Us with me gives me the courage to speak out and use my voice to combat this anti-Semitism. Before the Kenneth Leventhal High School internship and the Emerson Fellowship, I didn't have the power to combat anti-Semitism. But now I have the necessary tools to embrace my passion for Israel and also to combat misinformation on a daily basis.
Gabby, Mazal Tov, Gabby.
Gabby, you've been through both of our high school programs. You've been a Kenneth Leventhal intern, and now you are an Emerson Fellow at UCLA. And we couldn't thank you more for being such a big part of our family and such an amazing representative of the Jewish people and the state of Israel. Thank you for all you're doing.
By the way, the award, I'll just read this award to you, Gabby. It says, to Gabby Lasry, in recognition of your outstanding leadership and commitment to the mission of Israel education and to the fight against anti-Semitism, from the board and staff and all our friends at Stand With Us.
Okay, hang on. I'm obsessed with them, right? Let's give them another round of applause. I believe the children are our future. I can do this, but I'm not going to do it now. They're amazing. You guys are incredible. Wow, wow, wow. What an inspiring group of kids there. These young leaders are incredible. No, seriously, I'm sitting backstage with them, and I'm like, they're beautiful, they're smart, they're poised, they're strong, and we're just talking about that, and I'm like, it's okay. We've been around for thousands of years. We got this. Don't worry about this. Okay. It's very, very inspiring. We're very proud of you. Thank you for taking a stand against hate. And, you know, it's not always easy to take a stand against hate. It can come at you from teachers or from school administrators, like in the case of our students here. But I can tell you firsthand, as someone who regularly takes a stand on social media and through various art forms, that the hate and bullying online is horrific. And it's very, very dangerous. However, while these platforms create a space for hate and intolerance, they also create a space for education. Now, Stand With Us has the largest following on social media when it comes to educating about Israel and standing up to anti-Semitism. And one of their incredible educators went on the news to set the record straight about Kanye West again. We've seen this before. When people first learned about this. Let's take a look.
The tropes that he said were symptoms of bigotry and anti-Semitism, not of mental health or behavioral health issues. So I think that it's important that we don't use mental health as an excuse to not call out bigotry, anti-Semitism, and racism when we see it in our society.
Which begs the question, should social media giants be responsible for people who seemingly need help? Is this within their jurisdiction or not at all?
So I think that when it comes to social media companies, they have sets of guidelines, community guidelines and rules and regulations for their users. And if he was seen to have violated those guidelines, then it would make sense that there's an argument that they're within their rights to regulate that. And I think it's important for us to not only leave it on social media giants to do so, but to make sure we're proactive about sharing the Jewish story, sharing our own identity and defining that for ourselves, and calling out this anti-Semitic bigotry for what it is, which is dangerous.
This young man just made Aliyah. His name is Noam, but he has an H in it, not like me. And please welcome, he's here. Do you want to meet him? Noam Shafutinsky.
It's an honor to be here. I work as an education and outreach manager in the Jerusalem office, and it's a pleasure to join you all in Los Angeles to honor the support you provide for the next generation of Jewish leaders. From empowering us by giving the educational resources and materials we need to tell our story, to giving pragmatic tools to fight back against the false narratives told about Israel legally, we feel the impact of your dedication. My Stand With Us story goes back to my days as a college student at the George Washington University, when the student government supported BDS. With the support of Stand With Us, we succeeded to get the administration to come out against BDS and in support of the Jewish community. As a student leader and musician, I was able to express my identity and empower my peers by organizing pro-Israel events and using my art to tell my nation's story. With anti-Semitism rising in prevalence, I became familiar with dangerous new precedents. Shared spaces infected with hate and prejudice. From the classroom to the quad, I felt restless. Like many students, I was relentlessly questioned. My pride and my tribe was never truly threatened. Throughout the hardships of the diaspora, I found my family together, forever standing up. Stand With Us gave me a voice to bring my tribe pride. So here's a song I wrote about our timeline. Hey, I'm a proud part of the diaspora. We ain't gonna play the victim. They get mad every time we're standing up. I'm proud of my people, what we accomplished. You're crazy if you think some rocket barrages will stop us. Look through our history and we've been through it all. Made it through slavery and a Holocaust and still standing tall. At the Kotel Western Wall, Saint Shema meditated on all the populations to whom this song is dedicated. 6 Jewish families that resided in Khartoum. Iraqi brothers and sisters, Savada Farhud. The ones who came in 56 from Israel. Now we're thriving. Garim Yerushalayim. וגם בחיפה, גולן ותל אביב, באר שבע והנגב ואילת by the sea. אתה יודע שלא שכחתי האתיופים שעשו את הכל, מה הם אמרו שהם לא יכולים. I'm a proud part of the diaspora. In my heart I hold Jerusalem and Africa. Kicked aside of our land and started gassing us till we put our foot down cause we had enough. Check out the flag that I'm waving. 2 blue stripes and a huge Star of David. Check out the flag that I'm waving. Keep shooting rockets but you never gon' take it. Hear them talking about the Jews will not replace us on college campuses that been trying to erase us. But all that BDS campaigning, we dealt with worse problems and racist associations of students all acting stupid, thinking they're making differences, picking and choosing truths and not knowing what real resistance is. Say you value social justice, are you kidding us? What the hell gives you the right to tell me who's indigenous? You don't have it, you just assume the privilege of looking at other people and telling them what their image is. Want the image to fit your twisted narrative, but your divide and conquer tactics ain't scaring this diaspora, of which I'm a proud part. I got blue and white in my veins running through my heart. And they get mad when we're surviving. The truth is, only way they like a Jew is if they're dying. So I'ma say this by the candlelight. Take a moment and remember the fallen for the sacrifice. Never again, never forget they wanted us dead. We rose from the ashes instead. מלמדים ההיסטוריה מדור לדור. לא יהיה לנו עתיד אם לא נזכור. We wouldn't have a future if we didn't have a past. Every day we gotta take a minute and honor those who passed. Don't wake up determined, we're returning to the ways that they tried to erase, that we're preserving. Scattered in the wind in diaspora conditions, still maintain the connection to our traditions. Morocco to Havana, Yemen living in Eden, Ciudad de Mexico, Buenos Aires, we're all one nation. Through all of the oppression that they threaten, trying to shatter us, I'm still a proud part of the diaspora. I'm a proud part of the diaspora. In my heart, I hold Jerusalem in Africa. Kicked aside of our land and started gassing us till we put our foot down, cause we had enough. Check out the flag that I'm waving, 2 blue stripes and a huge Star of David. Check out the flag that I'm waving, keep shooting rockets, but you never gonna take it. Cause I'm a proud part of the diaspora. Thank you so much.
I think they're standing for you. That was great. Noah Shufutinsky. Noah, I think that your mother is here with us tonight. Where's Brandy Shufutinsky? Could you please stand? You raised him so well. Thank you very much. And now we have him. So we are so proud of you, and that's why we hired you. Now everybody can see why we hired you in Israel, because you are going to be seeing thousands of students that are coming into Israel from all over the world, and you'll be able to educate them. So. And we have an award for you here, Noah. It is especially for you, Star of David Award. I know you didn't expect it, but you deserve it. We're so proud of you. Thank you. Noah. So Noah's going to be on a journey, and we're excited to go with him. So thank you all for being here tonight. So happy to see you. Hi, Ilan. We are very excited. I went off script, so it'll take them a minute to find my area. Okay, great. So hello, everybody in the virtual land out there. Thank you for joining us. I know there's hundreds of people that have joined us tonight, so hello to everybody. And we are so happy you're here to hear and to witness these incredible stories. We certainly have our work cut out for us, don't we? I would like to thank our incredible, talented staff before I give you my remarks for helping us get to this moment. I want to start with Aaron Alcabez. Aaron Alcabez, who everybody seems to know. Thank you for everything big and small that you did to make this event incredible. And thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie, for being Aaron's perfect partner. And Roy and Guy, our video gurus, thank you. Thank you, Shmuel, Kobe, and Avichai, thank you. And to Rebecca and Chloe and Leora and Johanna and Hannah. And thank you to Hanan and Shalom and Jackie and Sarah. And of course, Jerry Rothstein. Thank you all. And I want to tell you something, Nati Saidoff, wherever you are, I don't know, every minute he disappears. We love you, Nati, wherever you are. He is very hands-on. He was involved in every aspect of this evening, so thank you, Nati. You'll see him soon. So I want to ask Sharon Shafir from El Al to please stand and be recognized. Where are you, Sharon? There she is. Sharon, I want to thank you guys because El Al has been a tremendous partner for Stand With Us. They have an ambassador program, and we actually are training their pilots and flight attendants because you know they go to cities all over the world, and they are going to be representing Israel and Israelis. So that is very cool. We also, many of you saw that we had tickets for two business class seats that they gave to Stand With Us for the auction. Thank you, Sharon. Please tell everybody in management that we appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. They're catching up with me again. Give me a second. Okay. The ambassador program is so important at El Al because it's really very difficult during these challenging times to find voices to be able to represent Israel and the Jewish people. So we're most grateful for that program. But let's talk about the challenges that we're facing right now. From the United Nations that are normalizing double standards against Israel, to Kanye West, of course, and others who promote vile, dangerous hatred and conspiracy theories against Jews. And people who have millions of followers on Instagram, like Bella Hadid and her sister Gigi, Boo, with over 50 million followers, each of them on Instagram, posting terrible lies about Israel, normalizing the accusations and making them true. And we're seeing increased numbers of swastikas at high schools and at colleges. And so many of our students are reporting that their free speech is threatened as they cannot be themselves on far too many campuses. They're made to feel marginalized if they say that Israel is important to them, as you saw in the Berkeley film, and that Israel has a right to exist. The problem is that Israel is a big part of the very identity of most Jewish people and non-Jewish people who are Zionists. It's part of the fabric of their identity, and their free speech is literally threatened. So why is this happening? How did we get here? Could it be the rise of anti-Semitism because of divisiveness in politics? Could the rise of anti-Semitism be a result of COVID or perhaps the economy? Whatever it is, we know from history that the Jewish people always get trapped and blamed in the middle of whatever socioeconomic problems are. Jews are and have been the world's most convenient scapegoat. Whenever it's time to blame a group or just be hateful, we've been that scapegoat for thousands of years. And we know this. It is, after all, a mutating virus of the world's oldest hatred. That's what we're looking at. And even worse, we're looking at different shades of anti-Semitism getting normalized and mainstreamed. But you're here tonight because you love Israel and you love the Jewish people. And you stand against anti-Jewish bigotry. Everyone should recoil when they witness bigotry of any kind. But sometimes the bigotry against Jews is given a free pass. We're here together to make sure that bigotry against Jews, or the only Jewish state in the world, is not given a free pass. And I think you know already that Stand With Us is one of your best partners in the world to do just that. And as you heard tonight, we are doing it. We're fighting for Israel and the Jewish people, but it wasn't always like that. There wasn't always a Stand With Us. We know that. 21 years ago, Jerry, Esther, and I, and others that are here tonight, began this organization because there was a problem. We looked around and saw rising anti-Semitism. We saw people being murdered in Israel and the media telling half-truths, leading the public to blame Israel for the lack of peace and even for the barbaric terrorism against Israel. Nothing's changed, right? We heard that students were experiencing bullying on campuses, and we had nothing to offer them. We had no legal department to help them. We had no writers, we had no researchers, no strategists, no Emerson Fellows, no campus department to guide students and make them part of the international network of students around the world who are taking a stand, standing tall and proud together against anti-Semitism and on behalf of Israel like they do today. We did not have social media that reaches millions of people every single week. And we had no high school program reaching over 100,000 students each year through our Kenneth Leventhal internship and our incredible high school professionals. We had no middle school curriculum that inspires young teens like Eleanor. No teacher training no support for rabbis in their communities, no Holocaust education in the classroom. By the way, we're doing that too. But today we have it all. And as you heard, we have it on 6 continents. I can stand here and tell you with a full heart, as a daughter of 2 Holocaust survivors, that we are working shoulder to shoulder with your children and your grandchildren and offering them the help that they need and they deserve. Stand With Us is strong, and we will not turn away students who need our help. We will not ignore acts of bigotry against the Jewish people. We will not simply tell you about the anti-Semitism we see. We will actively meet those challenges. That is our priority, just like it's your priority. And that's why you're here. Because we all know that this is a race against time. And you can sleep better knowing that there is a Stand With Us. We will teach the world, including the United Nations Human Rights Council, that regularly targets Israel, that Israel has a right to defend itself against terrorism and to defend its citizens, like 5-year-old Ido Avigal, who was murdered while in his safe room being held by his mother because he was afraid of the rockets and the sirens. Ido, murdered by one of thousands of rockets launched into Israeli apartments, hospitals, playgrounds by Hamas. A single rocket that hit the home of Ido Avigal. And if the United Nations Human Rights Council will continue to ignore stories like Ido's, then we will have to tell that story 1,000 times until they hear us. We will fight for the truth, even though others attempt to bury the truth. We will fight for free speech, and we will fight for the right to stand tall as Zionists who proudly express our Jewish identity, which includes Israel. We will fight against anti-Semitism, and we will fight for the passage of IRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, as our staff did with all their might in November in West Hollywood and in Los Angeles, where the votes in both cities were unanimous to adopt IRA. And there are ways you can get involved in that, and we are going to stay in touch with you and let you know how. Our dedicated international team at Stand With Us is thinking outside the box to solve the problems you all hear about, one threat at a time. Just know it, that there are 170 of us now, yes, 170 of us around the world working together to solve the issues that you hear about. And according to the charity watchdog groups that assess hundreds of thousands of charities across the United States, Charity Navigator and GuideStar, Stand With Us has the highest possible ratings for the last 11 years. Imagine that we are among the top 7% of all charities across the country, Jewish, not Jewish, due to our transparency and our use of funds. So that's very exciting. So you can be confident in your partnership with us. So before I end, because it's time to end, I want to ask all of you a question, a serious question. How many, if we get a little bit of light on the audience, how many of you have been subject to or have a friend who's been subject to anti-Semitism? Put your hand up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, look around the room. Keep your hand up for 1 second. So there are a lot of hands up. I'll just tell you that so you don't have to crane your necks. But that should concern us all. But we're not alone. We have each other, and we have this fantastic dedicated organization that will fight on our behalf. And we need to keep Stand With Us strong, and we need to keep it growing. Everybody agree with me? Yes, you agree with me? Why? Why do we need to keep it strong? Because in 20 years, we want to make sure that the young people that we're working with today are going to be sitting in these chairs. That's why. So now we're going to do something old-fashioned. We do it every year. It's very important. We're doing a live appeal. And it's important to the lifeblood and the growth of this organization. So you'll be patient with us. So when you walked in this evening, you have been given a bag with a pen and a pledge card. Please open your bag. Yes, go in your bag, take out your pledge card, take out a pen, and join us in partnership tonight. We know that you already paid for your tickets. You may have already made a donation, but we're asking you to please invest in us again. Invest in us now so we can open really strong in 2023. That's the goal of the Festival of Lights, to open strong in January of 2023. Join us so that the light at the end of the tunnel of dangerous anti-Semitism will always remain bright for anyone who needs us. So please join us tonight to stand up to hate, knowing that you are part of a strong and growing organization that will always support you and always support kids around the world. For those of you joining us virtually, you can donate online by clicking the donate button on your screen, or you can text. This is kind of very easy. Text the word STAND to the number 345-345. And now I would like to invite to the stage one of our hosts of this evening's program. The whole Festival of Lights is hosted by the Side-Offs and the Lettermans. Thank you. I'd like to invite Nati Side-Off to the stage, one of the most hands-on philanthropists that I know, and my brother of choice. Welcome, Nati Side-Off. All right, and I'd also like to invite back to the stage Ilan Gold, wherever you are. Come back to us, Ilan, we need you. Oh, yeah, okay.
In case they didn't, everybody got one of these, right? We talked about this?
Yes.
A little beach bag just in time for December. This beautiful weather. But inside,
be nice.
there's a pledge card. I am right now filling it out for $1,800 because I have to support, and I know that.
Thank you.
I know that we need this now more than ever. So I hope you're all filling out yours. Are we taking live pledges?
So we're taking live pledges. We're taking pledges in here. But before that, we have to say a word here because something bad happened. We have lost a pillar of the community, and I just wanted to mention that right now. Isaac Sheffer, who many of you know, died yesterday. And I know the Side-Offs and the Evenheims and everybody here that knew him and were so close with him are so heartbroken today. So I just want you to know I'm acknowledging you and your hearts and your sadness. He was a pillar of a person. You have no idea. And a major supporter with Miri of Stand With Us and of the IAC. I mean, really doing amazing things in the world.
To know Miri and Isaac was to love them. He was such a real person. We cannot believe he's no longer with us. He, like you, was a son of Holocaust survivors. He is now sitting in the sky with his 3 sisters that he never met. They perished in the Holocaust. So, yes, David, thank you. So we know we're never going to allow for that to repeat. We swore never again. And in this room and other rooms across the United States where we're active, we're going to make sure that what we pledge is going to become a reality. Never again means never again.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and now we are about to have a very interesting conversation between Noah Tishby and Mati Friedman, two authors who will address the issues of our times. Please sit down because we are about to watch that conversation. I know you're going to love it, love it, love it. So to introduce Mati Friedman, I would like to bring up one of tonight's sponsors. Remember, we have the Side-Offs and the Lettermans. We have Ellie and Bruce Letterman, Debbie and Nati Side-Off. They pay for the entire night so that all of your money goes right into programming. So they need that proper thank you. So thank you to the Lettermans and to the Side-Offs. Thank you. And now let me bring up a man who is very special. He's on our board of directors, Bruce Letterman. I want to tell you just this. Anytime we need legal help, Bruce and Marty Janal have always been there. And I just wanted to express that gratitude. Thank you, Bruce. Please welcome Bruce Letterman.
Good evening. It is my privilege to introduce Mati Friedman. Mati was born to a Canadian Jewish family in 1995 at age 17. He immigrated to Israel. He wasn't born in 1995. His family joined him a year later. He served in the IDF and was deployed to the Israeli security zone in southern Lebanon. This was during the Lebanon conflict in the late 1990s. After his military service, he studied at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem and then began a career as a reporter and journalist. He worked in the Jerusalem Bureau of the Associated Press and then as a reporter in Egypt, Morocco, Lebanon, and Washington, D.C. And then he began writing books, book after book. And his books began winning awards, award after award. In fact, it seems that Mati cannot write a book that does not win an award. So I began thinking, maybe I can help Mati Friedman by advising him on how to write a book that will not win an award. So here's what I would tell him. Mati, number one, do not do so much careful research. You did that in your book, The Aleppo Codex, and it won 5 awards. Number two, do not write about a topic with which you have personal experience and firsthand knowledge. That's what you did in your book, Pumpkin Flowers, The Soldier's Story of a Forgotten War. It was chosen as one of Amazon's 10 best books of 2016. And finally, for goodness sake, do not make your book so interesting. You did that in Spies of No Country, Secret Lives at the Birth of Israel. And of course, you won 2 awards. But my job is not to advise Mati, it's to introduce him. So, now in conversation with Noah Tishby and Mati Friedman, I'd like to have Mati and Noah come out. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. What a night, right? What a night. So, first of all, I want to start, Mati, by I want to say thank you to Stand With Us for actually getting us together for the first time, and I want to use this opportunity to say thank you. Right before my book was coming out, I had a conversation with my publisher, with Simon & Schuster, and we started working on what's called blurbs for the book. Blurbs are endorsement from various leaders in the community. And they gave me a list. They said, listen, I'm not going to go to people. Why don't you just tell me who you want me to get a blurb from, and I'll try and get them. So they gave me a list of people, of leaders in our community, and they were like, if you can get those people, that'll be amazing. And one of the people on the list was Mati Friedman. And I cold emailed you. I just sent him an email out of the blue, and I'm like, listen, I wrote this book, and I'd love for you to endorse it, and you did. So, yes, so I want to say thank you so much. Thank you, yes. I feel like you had a hand in the book's success. You said that the book is more about having conversation over beer with a friend than a history book, right? Which is exactly that.
I would like to say that if I'm a leader of the Jewish community, the crisis is much worse than we think.
Do not sell yourself short. Okay, so Mati, you were a reporter and an editor in the Jerusalem Bureau of the Associated Press. You had a front row seat to the press and how the press covers Israel. How the public feels about Israel comes in great part from what they know about it, from the media and from social media now. You wrote, "The world is not responding to events in this country, but rather to the description of these events by news organizations," which is very true. And you also describe the coverage of Israel as the most important story on earth. That's a tall order. Tell us a little bit about your experience with the press obsession with Israel. Why do they report so disproportionately to the country's size? And also, if you can give us some specific examples, there's the Olmert offer and the conflict in 2014. So tell us a little bit about your experience.
Great. I mean, we have 7 or 8 hours, so I hope that'll be enough. Thank you so much, Noah, for being with me, and thanks to StandWithUs for hosting me, and thanks to all of you for coming. And I must say, looking at Noah, I feel very inadequate on the Zionist jewelry front. I mean, 2 Stars of David, Land of Israel, and Chai, and I've got
2 Stars
nothing.
of David? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
If the fight against the haters was won by jewelry, we would win in a knockout.
Just in case anybody has any question of whether or not I'm Jewish, like, I'm Jewish.
I was going to ask, yes. I spent about 6 years working for the Associated Press, which is the American news agency. It's the world's biggest news organization, according to the Associated Press. According to Reuters, Reuters is the world's biggest news organization. And I went in quite naive about the way the press works. I'm a person of liberal leanings in Israeli politics. I would place myself on the left or the center left, and I didn't expect to have any trouble working for a mainstream American news organization, and I did. I had a lot of trouble, and some of you might have read some essays that I wrote about the troubles that I had, which came out in 2014.
Publicly resigned?
What I found was that the Israel story had very little to do with the country that I knew, and a few different things were going on, and I'm going to just give you a few very brief points because we don't have a lot of time. One of the weird things about the story was the amount of attention focused on Israel. Israel is 1/100th of 1% of the world's surface. It's 0.01% of the world's surface. As a percentage of the landmass of the Arab world, which is where Israel is, it is 1/5 of 1%, 0.2%. And yet we had 40 people covering the news story. Israel proper, that's about 9 million people, and the Palestinian territories, West Bank and Gaza, another 4 or 5 million. So we had 40 full-time staff covering about 14 million people, and that was dramatically more than we had at that time covering China, which is a small country that some of you may have heard of, with 1.3 billion people. We had more staff in Israel than we had in all of the countries of sub-Saharan Africa combined. That's 50-something countries. So it added up to this idea that this country was the most important story on earth, which is the headline of an article I wrote, but that's tongue-in-cheek. Of course, I don't actually think it's the most important story on earth, but it is portrayed that way. And that is the reason that the country receives more vitriol and more criticism than almost any other country in the world, even though the country is physically very small and the size of the conflict is very small. And I can give you just one number to illustrate that. I live in Jerusalem, which is the epicenter of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as it's described in the press. Jerusalem's a city of almost 1 million people. Last year, if we look at all of the violent fatalities in the city of Jerusalem for any reason, terrorism, domestic homicide, criminal homicide, if we take any person who died in violent circumstances in the city where I live last year, 2021, the number is, as far as I can tell, no one will give you the number, but I add it up at the end of every year, the number is 24. We had 24 fatalities in Jerusalem.
24 people.
24 people, Israelis and Palestinians, which is
24 people. That's as many as died yesterday in Compton, basically.
Which is tragic, first of all. I mean, it should be 0, so I'm not saying that's okay, and I'm also not saying it's not necessarily my fault. Some of it is, but just to give you a point of comparison, Indianapolis, which is a city the same size as Jerusalem, had 270 homicides in the same period of time. Jacksonville, Florida is a city the same size as Jerusalem. They had 170, and no one thinks there's a war in Indianapolis. So there's something very strange about the amount of attention focused on this one little country before we even get into the content of the story. The focus, the obsession is something that should stand out to all of us and indicate, I think, that this is not a rational attempt to analyze a complicated place on planet Earth. It's a different kind of story, and that's why it elicits a different kind of response.
What is it? What is it, do you think?
What I think it is less a news story than a morality story.
So a morality test, to some extent. How?
It's a story about characteristics that the West hates about itself.
What is that?
The West, the liberal West, which is the part of the Western world where the media operates, there are similar problems on the right, by the way, and I don't take them lightly, but I operated in the more left-leaning media. The ills of the world, as seen by liberal people in our times, center on the idea of inequality. That's what's wrong with the world. And there are different emanations of inequality: racism, colonialism, nationalism, militarism.
Ethno-colonialism.
That's right, that's right. That's what animates people in the liberal West. And the story about Israel is very much a story about a country that is guilty of all of those sins. So for American consumers of news, increasingly the Israel story is a story about American-style racism. And Israelis are portrayed as empowered white people, and Palestinians are portrayed as a version of African Americans, and the dynamic is said to be one similar to the dynamic in the United States of America. Members of Congress have said things like, what they're doing to us in Ferguson is what they're doing to us in Palestine.
Gaza, to Palestine.
And I'm not making light at all of America's racial problems, which I think are very serious. I'm just saying that these are two completely different stories, and pretending they're the same indicates that it's not actually a news story. It's not aimed at explaining what's going on in Israel. It's aimed at channeling negative emotion toward Israel by portraying Israel as something that Americans hate. And if you look at coverage coming out of places like Britain, for example, or France, the coverage is much less about American-style racism and much more about colonialism, which is, of course, the
what
skeleton
they are holding
in the
as,
British and French closet. So it ends up being a story about what people hate about themselves. That's what I mean when I say that it's not a news story, it's a morality story.
This is beautiful. So Israel, to some extent, is a litmus test to good and evil. So I use this example a lot. So this is Yossi Klein Halevi said that somewhere, and I told him, actually called him up, and I told him I'm going to take it and use it and run with it. So he always says that the Jew, right, the Jew is always used to describe whatever it is that is most loathsome in a society at any given moment, right? Always has throughout history, right? So in the days of like in the days of early days of Christianity, the Jew was like the Christ killer. Under communism, the Jew is either the capitalist pig or the communist, depending on who you're asking. Under Nazism, the Jew is the race polluter, and so on and so forth. And today, what's the worst thing to be in our polite society today? Exactly, racist, colonialist, apartheidist, and lo and behold, what a shocker. Like, who is to blame with all these horrific things but the Jewish state? So I couldn't agree with you more. And I named my book A Simple Guide to the Most Misunderstood Country on Earth, and everybody's like, why did you name it this name? And I was like, saying the most misunderstood country on earth, I was saying, obviously it's not the most misunderstood country on earth, because I know nothing about Bali, right? We know nothing about the governance system of Denmark, right? No idea. But what I was pointing out to is the discrepancy between how little people know about Israel and how strong of opinions they have. So that's what I was pointing out to. And it's interesting because you saw it firsthand. So it's not invented, it's an actual problem. Okay, sometimes it's not just what the press gets wrong about Israel, it's what they don't talk about, what they omit, right? Tell us some examples of situations in which you saw the press kind of changing stories, burying stories, changing it around in order to fit that narrative.
Well, I think maybe the most important example for coverage in our times is what's going on in Gaza. So Hamas is a military organization of some efficiency with Iranian backing, of course, and they've constructed a military landscape underneath the civilian landscape in Gaza, which is indistinguishable from the civilian landscape in Gaza. And there are reporters who report on Gaza, but they never report on that for complicated reasons, some of them ideological, and some of them Hamas censorship. So when violence breaks out in Gaza, as it did last spring, for example, what you're going to see in the press is images of Palestinian casualties and fatalities, many of them tragically civilians and many of them children. And what you won't see is rockets being launched from civilian areas. In Gaza, of course, the Israeli military is acting to suppress rocket fire coming from civilian areas, but because the press operates as it does, all you will see is the result of the Israeli response and not the attacks that prompted the response. So that's built into the way press coverage has evolved in Israel since my own time at the AP. I remember seeing it begin in the first really bad round of violence that we saw in Gaza in late 2008, early 2009. Operation CAS led. We had a reporter in Gaza, Palestinian guy, lovely guy, by the way, very capable reporter. He reported early in the war that Hamas casualties were being counted as civilian casualties and that the Hamas fighters were dressed as civilians.
How he found that out and reported on that?
He was there in Gaza
And what
he
happened?
saw it and he reported it, and I was on the desk in Jerusalem and put it in our story, so it actually went out on the AP wire. And it's maybe the key detail to understand about fighting in Gaza. Our army doesn't want to hurt civilians, and we just don't know who's who because that's the way Hamas fights. So it's a very important detail, of course, and Western outrage is generated by the death toll. So if Hamas fighters are being included as civilians in the death toll, obviously that's a detail of great importance. Within a few hours, he called back. I picked up the phone. Someone had obviously spoken to him, and he said, you have to remove that detail from the story. And I did. I erased the detail from the story. I consulted with another editor about appending an editor's note to the story that would at least tell our readers that we were complying with Hamas censorship. That idea was shot down, and from about that time, the coverage went out without any indication that we were being manipulated by Hamas, and it has reached an extreme pitch with, phenomenon like the New York Times front page that showed, these terrible, heartbreaking pictures of Palestinian children, which is truly terrible and heartbreaking, without explaining to you exactly how those kids were killed or why. And that's deeply embedded in the way the press operates in the Israel story.
They still won't report on Palestinian censorship. Why not?
It's a broader phenomenon. Western reporters in repressive regimes will, as a rule, not tell you what they're not allowed to report. And that's true of Western reporters in Iran. The AP has a bureau in North Korea.
I'm sure that's free press right there.
There was a report that came out on it a couple years ago, written by a good reporter named Nate Thayer. The AP bureau in Pyongyang exists in a building called the Ministry of Propaganda and Agitation. I'm not joking, it sounds like I'm making it up, but the AP reporters in North Korea are intelligence of North Korean intelligence. And it sounds like a crazy story, but that's the only way you can operate in North Korea. So if you want video footage from inside North Korea, you have to play ball with the North Koreans, which means that you're going to be obeying the rules that the North Koreans give you. And the same is true in Iran, and the same is true in Gaza, of course. In Gaza, the added detail is that the reporters, the details that the reporters are not allowed to report are generally details that the reporters do not want to report anyway. Because
why is that?
The story that the reporters want to tell in Gaza is a story of Israeli malevolence or Israeli power and Palestinian victimhood. So the fact that you can't report that rockets are being fired from civilian areas, the fact that you can't show footage of Hamas guys in uniforms in civilian areas, you'll almost never see those images. Those details don't matter anyway because your story is about how bad Israel is. So the details that Hamas won't let you report, in fact, would just complicate your story anyway, which is why the reporters don't make a big fuss about it.
Oh my God. This is every time I kind of say inside, right? Debbie, we're like, oh my God. Okay, so you have written about the changing role of the press. So it's not just how the media is transitioning from simply reporting news and current affairs to becoming activists who shape the events. Now, how do you think the reporters in the Middle East see their roles? And also with human rights organization now being super active in social media, how do you think that landscape is changing?
What I saw in my time in the press was a move from explanatory journalism to activism. And it's not just in Israel. I mean, I think anyone who consumes American media about any story at all understands that the press has become a kind of activist class. And if you're consuming right-wing media, you're getting a certain kind of activism in which Democrats are all, subversive communists or something. And if you consume left-wing media, then the Republicans are fascists. And that's the kind of press that has emerged over the past 10, 15 years. And I saw it happen in Israel when I was at the AP, again, between 2006 and the very end of 2011. It started to shift. So if once the idea had been, let's try to explain this complicated story so that people at home can make up their own minds about it and have an accurate idea of what's going on in the world, the idea had shifted by the time I left the AP to be a fight for justice. The press came to see itself as part of the fight for justice.
For what they perceived as justice.
Exactly. And if you're on the left, justice means something very specific in the case of Israel and the Palestinians. Justice means fighting against Israel on behalf of the Palestinians. I'm not commenting here on the legitimacy of the Palestinian cause. I think there's a lot of justice on both sides of the conflict. I'm just saying that that's not the job of the press. The job of the press is not to fight for justice, it's to explain what's going on. And as soon as you identify a good guy and a bad guy and use your press coverage as a tool in favor of the good guy, no one can understand what's going on. Because if you're fighting for justice, then what you need to do is make Israel sound as bad as possible and the Palestinians as good as possible. So the Palestinians become this kind of,
freedom
blameless
fighters
victim, and Israelis become this mechanized kind of Death Star state that is guilty not of trying to, save our own behinds in a very tough part of the world, but is guilty of apartheid. It is basically a malevolent state that needs to be dismantled. And this campaign is being run not just by the press, but by the presses or by the activist class that also controls most of the NGOs that you were mentioning, Amnesty, Human Rights Watch. These are more or less the same people pursuing the same political agenda with different hats on. So the activists in the press will quote the activists from a human rights NGO, and the human rights NGO will quote an academic expert from a university in the UK, and that academic from the UK will get appointed to be a UN observer, who will write a report that will then be picked up by the press, and all this generates the perfect storm of coverage that creates this demonic Israel, which is the one you bumped into on the Berkeley campus.
Oh my God. I always say that.
Ask me something optimistic.
We'll get there. I always say that in this world that we live in, which is post-truth world, right? Israel's patient zero. It really is, to some extent.
I agree.
Yeah.
Just as Jews are often patient zero, by the way, in many ideological movements.
Yes, absolutely. And time is up already. I would like to end on a positive note. What do you think the future of Israel, of the Jewish people, like seeing all this crap, pardon my French, from the inside? Are you optimistic?
I am optimistic, which sounds crazy based on everything we've just said. I mean, I think we have to take all this very seriously, and I'm glad that Stand With Us does. And this is, quite depressing what's happened to the media, and you can go down black holes on the internet and get an incredible flood of negative information. As an Israeli who lives in Jerusalem, I have the luxury of being able to open my window and look at the state of Israel. So I don't need to get my information from the sources that I'm mentioning. I look out at a city where, with all of its problems, it's a success every day, right? People speak Hebrew. My kids were born speaking Hebrew, and they think that's totally normal. 100 years ago, no one spoke that language. A few years ago, when my kids were younger, we drove by the old city of Jerusalem, and I was explaining to them what churches are, because there are spires of churches in the old city, and I realized that my kids thought that Christianity was a tiny sect like the Druze. There are Druze, and there are Cherkessians, and there are Christians, and then there are lots and lots of Jews.
We are the majority, and they're just like, we're so benevolent.
So just to allow Jewish kids that illusion for a few years is quite something. So I'm actually very bullish about the state of Israel. Our politics are in deep crisis. They're divisive. They're not generating the kind of unifying politics that we need to see, but the society is incredibly energetic and strong, and every morning that I wake up in Israel, I'm happy to be there.
Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much. We have so much. Could have gone for a very long time. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you, Mati. Please continue supporting Stand With Us. They do an incredible job. And don't go anywhere. There's dessert outside. So we'll see you outside. Thank you so much, and see you next year. Thank you.